Today I'll be painting some art cards with you. These are flowers and leaves and forest, generally nature themed simple art in watercolor. This is a small watercolor paper and this is my palette with some basic colors, and I'm just using a small brush. And I'm now going to start the process of drawing and painting some flowers right with the brush. And as I do that, I am going to talk to you about retirement. I am going to talk about beautiful reflection on retirement and how I feel about it. I feel that it's a beautiful time to slow down. And no, I don't feel like I'm falling behind. Whatever it is that needs my attention, it can wait. It's probably going to be there tomorrow or next week or even next month, waiting for me when, if I ever decide to do something about it, I will do it. Almost nothing feels urgent anymore. I have to tell you, peace has finally replaced that constant sense of urgency in my life. Some of my days are devoted to absolutely nothing except rest and leisure. And there I said it. You don't have to be productive all the time when you are retired. You don't have to fill every hour with errands, projects, appointments, or things you think you should be doing. You are allowed to simply enjoy your day, to sit with your coffee, read a book, take a walk, to paint, to watch the sunset, or to do absolutely nothing at all. And honestly, the longer I am retired, the more beautiful life seems to become. Not because retirement is perfect, it isn't. But after all those years of working, building a career, raising a family, meeting all the responsibilities, and constantly trying to get somewhere, I finally have something that is incredibly precious: time. Time that doesn't have to be justified. Time that doesn't have to produce anything. Time that can simply be lived after all those years of building a life for ourselves. This is part of the life we were building towards. And it's a life that includes time for rest, time for leisure, time for curiosity, and sometimes nothing else. And maybe that isn't falling behind. Maybe that is finally arriving. If you have been watching me doing the painting, I have applied all the basic colors, reds and greens and blues, and I am still working on my flowers. I have decided on the composition by now, where the flowers are gonna belong. Isn't it lovely? I get to decide that. I am the creator and I can apply my full artistic license to decide how I want this little art card to look like. That is full freedom, wouldn't you agree? There comes a time in life when you realize that you don't have to hurry anymore. You don't have to chase opportunity. You don't have to answer every message immediately. You don't have to finish everything on your list. And you don't have to feel guilty for having a day where you do nothing. For many of us, retirement is the first time in our lives when we can experience the luxury of time. Not time that is squeezed in between meetings, if you know what I mean. That's what life used to be. And we are no more borrowing from our sleeves. And we are not catching up on everything we couldn't do during the week. We are having a time that belongs to us. And perhaps one of the best lessons of retirement is learning not to fill every empty space. When we spend decades being productive, slowing down can initially feel almost uncomfortable. We ask ourselves, shouldn't I be doing something? Am I wasting my time? Shouldn't I be accomplishing more? But perhaps we have misunderstood what a meaningful life looks like. I want to talk about Bhagavad Gita today. It is a religious book for the Hindus, but it is also something really nice to read for everybody because it gives a very beautiful perspective on life. And I'd like to share with you my thoughts on what I have read occasionally in the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita offers a beautiful perspective on this very thing of being just so. Lord Krishna says, you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. And this is quoted in Bhagavad Gita. Coming back to the painting just for a few minutes, as you can see, I'm applying red color to paint the flowers. These are roses. It could be any flowers that you wish. It doesn't matter. It's about playing with the greens and the reds. Green and red are complementary colors, and they look fabulous when put against each other. And now I am working with the greens to put in different kind of leaves around the flowers, as if friends surrounding us, friends and families and beautiful things that are surrounding the flowers. I'm just painting them, having a great time doing so. Coming back to our topic of discussion, for most of our working lives, we are focused on the fruits of our labor, the promotion, the salary, the house, the savings, the accomplishments, the next goal, the next milestone. And there is nothing wrong with any of that. Those things helped us build our lives. But retirement can be the beginning of a different chapter, a chapter where we begin to ask, what if I don't always need a result? What if I can paint simply because I enjoy painting? What if I can take a walk without counting the steps? What if I can read a book without thinking about what I should be doing instead? And I am nearing the end of the journey with this little card, with this little chapter of its life. I may revisit some of it later on as the paint dries, but for now I'm ready to move on to the next one. And with that I remove the tape, and here is a little card for a gift. With that I move over to the next one. This time I'll be drawing and painting with a lot of greens, some leaves. And coming back to our main topic, I want to talk about what if I can sit quietly and ponder, think about that moment where you can sit quietly in the morning and watch the light come through the window. Can that be enough in a lifetime? Sometimes I like to practice the same thing over and over again. The slight monotony of actions is very relaxing for the mind. So I'm showing how easily eucalyptus leaves can be done on a simple small branch. And while we do that, I talk about the fact that maybe, retirement isn't about doing more with our freedom. Maybe it's about becoming more comfortable with just being, simply being and existing. And there is another beautiful teaching in the Gita. When the mind is tranquil, there is neither sorrow nor longing. And with that, I finished showing an example, and here is the second card that we produced. That brings me to the third one, which is leaves of aloe vera plants. And they're really simple to do, just long brushstrokes of green. I like to talk about that the fact that the older I get, the more I understand the value of tranquility. And peace doesn't always come from having everything figured out. Sometimes peace comes from realizing that everything doesn't need to be figured out. And in the meantime, I finished another sample of eucalyptus, and then I'm doing some ferns, all the while working with different shades of green. And sometimes I would revisit paintings that I did before, especially in watercolor, because as it dries, it's kind of nice to revisit it and put in more darker layers to create more contrast. So that's what I'm doing at this moment. While I do that, let's talk about how some things can wait. Some questions don't need answers right away or today. Some unfinished projects can remain unfinished, and some invitations can be declined. Some days can have no agenda whatsoever, and that's okay. For me, that's okay, because I have reached a point in my life where I find I care less and less about what other people are thinking. Let me know if you are also thinking the same way at this day and age. And for so many years, we lived according to the clock. Waking up, getting ready, go to work, meet the deadline, pay the bills, take care of the family, solve the problem, plan the next thing, and then again we do it all over again. So here I am doing another new card where I'm trying to put in some layers of color after I masked some areas with thin lines of tape. And so I put in blues and greens in very light wash, and I'm working through it. And this is called cool colors. And the next one I intend to do with warm color. So I hope you're having fun watching me do that, and give this a try. It's really easy to do, and you can make cards, for your friends and family and surprise them with your creativity. Because retirement gives us an opportunity to step outside of regular things that we are used to and break the rhythm, and to wake up without immediately asking, what do I need to accomplish today? And instead we ask, what would make today meaningful? Sometimes the answer might be painting, and sometimes it might be gardening. Sometimes it might be something totally different that you have never tried before. Sometimes it might be spending an afternoon with someone we love, and sometimes the answer might simply be resting. There is something very beautiful about no longer treating rest as something we have to earn. We spent decades earning our weekends. Perhaps now we can simply enjoy our Tuesdays or Thursdays, and we can sit on the balcony and have another cup of coffee, watch the clouds, listen to music, take a slow walk, and feel no need to explain ourselves, because life is not only about what we produce. We are human beings, not human machines, and perhaps retirement gives us permission to rediscover the being part. The Bhagavad Gita also teaches us about remaining steady through changing circumstances of life. Remain the same in success and failure. That idea especially is meaningful as we grow older. There'll be good days and difficult days, and there'll be plans that work and plans that don't. And here I am covering some areas of my painting and doing just fun splatters with colors. In the cool painting, I used cooler colors like blues and greens, and in the warm painting, I'm going to use warmer colors later on. And then I'm mixing some of the splatters up so that they can socialize with each other. It gives a very nice, interesting look to the painting. So try that and let me know how that went. So talking about control, there are some things we can control and things we cannot. Our bodies may change, our circumstances may change, people around us may change, but what we learn in life is to be a little bit more acceptable, a little less resistance, a little more gratitude, and perhaps a little less urgency, because eventually we realize that we were never actually behind. We were simply living our life at the pace that life required of us. And now the pace can change. Now you can slow down, you can take the scenic route, you can spend 3 hours painting something that will never be sold. You can read the same book twice, you can travel without rushing from one attraction to another. You can have a long conversation with a friend. So here, I am just trying to raise up the tape, just remove the tape gently. And, you have to, if you just put your finger on the tape, it warms up the adhesive and it becomes easier to remove it. And then I took a small brush and I'm doing some of the details around the areas that I took the tape off and define the trees more. And so this is one of the gifts of retirement, to not rush through everything, and not that every day becomes perfect, but that the definition of a good day can become much simpler. A good day might be a healthy breakfast, a little exercise, a few hours with a paintbrush, a phone call with someone you love, a beautiful meal, a sunset, and a beautiful and peaceful night's sleep. That's enough in this lifetime, isn't it? Perhaps retirement is not the end of our productive lives. Perhaps it's the beginning of a more intentional life, a life where we choose what deserves our attention, where we stop measuring our worth by how busy we are, where we understand that doing less can sometimes allow us to experience more. So, as I continue through this art, I'm still working with some of the details and trying to get things in, trying to establish the distance with darker colors, changing my colors to lighter colors, and working through the lights and the shadows, creating more beauty, more gratitude, more creativity, and more presence, and more life. The Bhagavad Gita doesn't tell us to stop acting. It teaches us to act without being consumed by the outcome. And maybe that is exactly what retirement can become. We can still create, still learn, still travel, still contribute, dream, but we don't have to be driven by the same urgency anymore. We can create because creating brings us joy. We can help because helping gives our life a meaning. We can learn because curiosity keeps us young. And we can rest because we finally understand that rest is also part of living. So if you are retired or thinking about retirement, don't be afraid of slowing down. You are not falling behind. There is nowhere you need to rush to. The world will continue spinning without you, answering every email, completing every task, or solving every problem. Let some things wait. Let some days be quiet. Let yourself enjoy the life you spent so many years building, because perhaps the real luxury of retirement isn't having more money. It isn't having more possessions, and it isn't even having more time. Perhaps the real luxury is finally having the freedom to decide what your time is worth. Creating art, I find, is a wonderful part of life as I grow older. Whether it's painting, drawing, pottery, or just keeping a sketchbook, creativity gave me a chance to slow down and be present in the moment. And it helped me to reduce stress, improve my mood, and provided a sense of purpose and accomplishment. Not accomplishment in a true sense of the word, but it's accomplishment from within myself. It's about my mind felt accomplished. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. It helped me to not think of things that I don't need to think about or worry about, or even have it play a role in my life. I feel that I can exist in the moment in a space that is mine. And I get so involved in the art that I forget a sense of time and place, and I'm able to just focus on what I'm doing, and before I know it, a few hours have passed and I have been so productive and I have created something that never existed in this world before, and it's a profound sense of accomplishment that is so good for my mental health and well-being. I encourage you to explore, experiment, and express your feelings in this way, because sometimes expressing feelings may be too difficult to put into words, or sometimes someone may not understand what we are trying to say, but you are able to express your feelings on paper with a paintbrush and a box of watercolor. And most importantly, there are no rules about being good at art. The joy is in creating. As we enter retirement, making art can become meaningful daily practice that supports our mental well-being and keeps our mind curious and engaged. And I hope you do give this a try. I find that creating art gives us a reason to slow down, explore, and enjoy the moment. It can lift our spirits, calm our minds, and remind us that we are still growing, and that you don't need talent for practicing this. You don't need permission. You simply need to begin. So pick up a brush, make a mark, try something new, because creativity has no expiration date. It's yours to explore. And as I ended the two forest scenes, one in cool color and one in warm, I lift up the tape, and now they're ready to be enjoyed. These designs can be reproduced very easily to make cards. And here are some of the samples of cards that I produced today for your enjoyment, to share with you, and for my enjoyment too. So these are floral scenes and leaves and forest scenes, and you saw how easy it was to produce it. All you need is some small pieces of paper, a brush, and some watercolors. And follow along with me if you like, or connect up with me to explore your creativity, and let's be together on this journey. I also wanted to show you how, after I feel I've finished my art, there is always a chance to revisit and to make further improvements. And at this point, I'm applying some darker layers of watercolors, still green, on top of the lighter layer. Watercolor has a way to dry lighter, so sometimes you may want to revisit and apply some darker layers. And that's what I'm doing to establish the base of the leaves, to bring some forward and push some backwards. And I'll continue to work through the other leaves that I did. I am using a different sort of darker green in this case, and a little bit of green mixed with some tiny bit of black would give you that darker color that you want to use to establish the depth of the painting. So what this is doing is pushing some leaves back, pushing some parts of the leaf back, and bringing other parts of the leaf forward. And I do go over to my third card and I try to do the same. The base of the leaves a little bit darker than the tip, and I try to establish the values of that. How dark and how light a particular area is called value in painting. So the lighter the value is, the lighter the color is, the value is the highest, and the darker the color is, the value is lowest. And usually the value determines how well the painting turned out. So this is a very important concept, and if you can remember this, that you have to always look at how dark and how light particular areas are, is going to improve your painting. So these are my 6 art pieces that I produced today, and these were, as you saw, these were pretty easy to make. I had lots of fun making it. It was very relaxing, and the leaves were the most simplest one, but there was a little bit of brush work that played a role in doing the leaves. I used round brush, and I used the brush very lightly, just skipping across the paper and twisting and turning it, and sometimes using the front of the brush, which is the tip, to make the initial mark, and then I'd lift it up, and then I'd glide it along and lift up when I'm done making that mark. And that's what causes the organic mark in the painting. And when I did this one where I had the forest scene, I went back with darker colors and I made more marks in the front, because if you can imagine, the front of the forest is not getting much light, so it's really darker. So with that assumption, I went in and I corrected the values in the 2 forest scenes. They are birch forests, and these are beautiful birch trees, and one of them is in a warm palette, which is yellow, orange, and red, and the other one was done in a cool palette, which is blues and greens and purples. And these are the 8 art pieces. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.